Hello beautiful people, this is Chris from TechSpert and I'm here with Sony's fresh new flagship phone, the Xperia 1 handset. It's actually here after launching months and months ago. You can actually go out into stores and buy it. And I'm going to do a full side-by-side comparison with last year's Xperia XZ3 flagship phone to see exactly what has been upgraded. As you can see, the design has changed up, the camera's been completely overhauled, so yeah, lots of new stuff to talk about. And don't forget, for more on the latest and greatest mobile tech, to please poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, yes, the design for the Xperia 1 has changed up quite considerably compared with last year's XZ3, while retaining that sort of unique Sony vibe all the same. So you still have that candy bar finish, even more so now with this elongated finish. Of course, you don't have quite as rounded corners and edges as the XZ3, but it's still a very comfortable grip, helped along by that new form factor. It's a very narrow handset, so it almost feels like quite a compact device, despite the fact it's now a 6.5-incher compared with a 6-inch XZ3. Of course, both the Xperia 1 and the XZ3 sport a glass finish around the back end. It's Gorilla Glass 5 here on the XZ3. It's been upgraded to Gorilla Glass 6 here for the Xperia 1, so a little bit more durable, although as you can see here, the XZ3 months old now, and it's still in absolutely pristine condition. No scratches or scuffs there on that lovely shiny surface. Both phones are IP68 water and dust resistant as well, so you can rock them in the shower, the jacuzzi, wherever you like to hang out. Unfortunately, you don't get quite the same sexy burgundy finish here on the Xperia 1 that you got on the old XZ3. You can pick it up in a purple finish, but definitely this burgundy model is one of our favourite Sony hues of all time. In terms of the buttons and ports and everything, very similar on both these smartphones. You do of course have a dedicated shutter button for your camera. No, unfortunately, 3.5mm headphone jack, so you'll have to use a dongly thing if you want to connect a pair of wired headphones. But one design element that's changed up quite a lot is the fingerprint sensor. This used to be a rear-mounted effort here on the XZ3. It's now moved back to the edge, just like classic Xperias here on the Xperia 1. Of course, for some annoying reason, you now do have a separate power button. I always preferred it was actually integrated into the scanner itself, but just give that sensor a quick poke and you're basically straight into your desktop. So it's nice and nippy, as long as your fingers aren't wet or dirty, in which case it's completely unresponsive, like most physical fingerprint sensors. And I'm definitely preferring that edge mounting to the rear mounted fingerprint sensor here on the XZ3, because it's in that awkward position right in the center of the phone, so you have to sort of scoot your finger down. It doesn't fall naturally underneath your finger when you pick up the phone. But thankfully, as you can see, both pretty nippy, so no issues with responsiveness or anything like that. Now, one of the major upgrades for the Sony Xperia 1 compared with the XZ3 is that display tech. The XZ3 already was a big upgrade over the XZ2 because it sported a gorgeous OLED display with a Quad HD Plus resolution, absolutely stunning for all of your movies, shows, all the rest of it. But here on the Xperia 1, that's been upgraded again. It's now a 4K resolution OLED display, 4K previously reserved for the premium line of smartphones. Of course, for your photos, your videos, all of that Quad HD Plus resolution is absolutely brilliant. You get nice crisp image reproduction. The XZ3 definitely still boasts one of the best smartphone screens out there, absolute eye candy. Of course, the color output can be changed up quite considerably as well. You actually get more control here on the XZ3. So if we dive into the display settings, you see it's on standard mode at the moment. If you boost it up to super vivid mode, you get really punchy colors. You certainly see in a side-by-side here with the Xperia 1, just on its default settings, you get some really in-your-face hues right there. The likes of the pinks and the purples really jump off the screen. And of course, you can knock it into professional mode as well, which is basically, I think it matches the sRGB color gamut, which is particularly good if you're going to be editing photos, things like that on the fly. Here on the Xperia 1, you don't get the likes of the super vivid mode anymore, unfortunately, but what you do get is the creator mode, which can be automatically toggled when you're watching videos. And what this does is basically a recreation of the master mode that you'll find on Sony Bravia TVs. It's a very technical area, but basically Sony provides a lot of the digital video equipment, the Cine Alta equipment as it's branded, to big movie production studios, and that's what the directors actually use to shoot their movies. And the creator mode just allows the Xperia 1 to basically faithfully reproduce that video as the director intended. So while you get less control over the output, you do get some really stunning results when you are actually viewing back movies. So is one better than the other? Well, they both support obviously HDR content. The contrast levels are absolutely stunning. And both of these examples, you get really nice deep blacks, some really nice crisp clean whites as well. And you do notice slight subtle differences between the two, but to be honest, they're both brilliant for watching just a bit of movies, kicking back some TV shows, whatever you need. And as you'd expect from Sony as well, you get a nice bit of upscaling of lower quality content as well, so it can just boost the resolution, make everything look nice and sharp, and SDR level footage is boosted to almost HDR level as well, so again for those sort of deeper contrasts and really nice colour reproduction. And both Sony smartphones are absolutely fantastic on the audio front as well. You do get a bit of Dolby Atmos support here on the fresh new Xperia 1, but both smartphones support the digital sound enhancement engine, so again boosting those lower quality tracks to make them sound more rich, more high definition. Got of course high res support on both of these devices as well. Nice bit of quality LDAC action as well. Got full support for the likes of aptX HD if you're going to be connecting to Bluetooth headphones, bit of Bluetooth 5 support in there too. And both the Xperia 1 and the older XZ3 rock a stereo speaker setup as well, pumping out media sound from those top earpieces and the bottom firing speakers as well. Just give a quick comparison now.
At long bleed and last, the Sony Xperia 1 has officially landed, so you can now get your mitts on this 6.5-inch behemoth with its triple lens. At long bleed and last, the Sony Xperia 1 has officially landed, so you can now get your mitts on this 6.5-inch behemoth with its triple lens.
So as you can see, both these smartphones, very similar output in terms of the audio. Nice punchy top volume there, so you'll definitely have no problem hearing even in a noisy environment. But of course the clarity is absolutely fine for a bit of video and stuff, but if you are going to be listening to music, definitely connect some phones. Now from a software standpoint, there's not too much between the Xperia 1 and the Xperia XZ3. If you dive into the system settings, you'll see they both run the latest version of Android version 9. That said, the Sony Xperia 1's overall UI experience definitely feels a bit more stock Android, and you do have some features in there, some set Android features that are missing from the Xperia XZ3, such as for instance the digital well-being, which is basically just a digital nanny. Hey, stop looking at your phone, go out and stroke a cat or whatever. Some features that were sadly missing from the XZ3 haven't been introduced here on the Xperia 1 either, such as for instance dedicated facial recognition. You've just got the crappy trusted face, which is like the Android built-in effort. It's not very good, to be perfectly honest. However, of course, you do get full support for typical Sony features such as PS4 remote play on both the XZ3 and the new Xperia 1, which is always great to see. And here on the Xperia 1, you also get the fantastic new game enhancer feature as well. And what this can do is basically block notifications, allows you to record your gaming session, things like that. Typical sort of gaming features that you get from a smartphone gaming mode. That's something that was missing from the Xperia XZ3. And of course that new stretch design isn't just great for the grip and for kicking back with some movies, it's also perfect for a bit of multitasking. So for instance, you can enjoy a bit of YouTube action while browsing the web, doing a bit of messages, stuff like that. So as you can see here, you can just be watching a video on the top and then you've still got all of this space in order to browse or do whatever else you're doing. So it's a really nice full view experience. And because neither of these phones are particularly compact, you can of course get a bit of one-handed mode action on the go as well, which is very, very useful. It just shrinks everything down as you can see there, and then you can load up your apps and they operate in this mode as well. Great stuff. And in fact, the Xperia 1 goes one further by allowing you to drag down your notifications bar from anywhere on the screen, similar to the One Plus phones with Oxygen OS, but unfortunately you don't get that here on the XZ3. On the performance tip, you also get an upgrade here on the Sony Xperia 1 as well. It's a new Snapdragon 855 chipset, whereas the older Xperia XZ3 of course rocks the previous year's flagship platform, the Snapdragon 845 chipset, and that was backed by 4 gigs of RAM on the old model. It's now been upgraded to 6 gigs here on the Xperia 1. So if you're into your benchmarking, there's the Geekbench 4 scores. No surprise to see the single and the multi-core scores have both improved. More importantly, of course, how is the everyday experience? Well, the Xperia 1 definitely feels a little bit nippier when you're dodging through menus and things like that, but the XZ3 is still a fantastic performer. Of course, you can play games like PUBG Mobile with an absolutely perfect frame rate. As you would imagine, you shouldn't need to upgrade anytime soon. As for the battery life, well, that's barely changed at all. It was a 3300 mAh cell here on the Xperia XZ3. It's been upgraded ever so slightly to a 3330 mAh here on the Sony Xperia 1. That said, the Xperia 1 does seem to cope better with quite intensive use. So if you're going to be streaming a lot of media, gaming, things like that, the battery life just seems to trickle down at a fairly standard rate here on the Xperia 1, whereas any heavy lifting such as shooting 4K video and the likes of that seem to kill the XZ3 a lot faster. Of course, you get the same usual battery modes such as the stamina mode, the ultra stamina mode here on the Xperia 1, and of course the Qnovo style battery care tech as well. That just basically prevents your battery from overcharging if you're leaving it in all night long, which is great to see. Hopefully prevent long-term damage. However, the XZ3 also supported Qi wireless charging. That seems to have been culled for the Xperia 1. It no longer supports wireless charging, which is a bit of a shame for a premium flagship device. And the storage has also been upgraded as well. Here on the XZ3 you got 64 gigs as standard, whereas it's up to 128 for the fresh new Xperia 1. But both smartphones also support micro SD memory cards of up to 512 gigs in size, so no worries. Now, as you can hopefully tell from just a quick glance, the final area that has been overhauled for the Xperia 1 flagship phone is that rear-mounted camera tech. Here on the old XZ3 you had a 19 megapixel f2.0 snapper. That was a single lens camera. Now you've got three of the buggers here on the back of the Xperia 1. You've got deep breath, 12 megapixel primary lens with an f1.6 aperture, and that's backed by a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle and a 12 megapixel telephoto lens as well. That telephoto effort adding a 2x optical zoom to the Xperia 1. Of course, if you actually jump on into the camera apps, a huge amount doesn't seem to have really changed between the Xperia 1 and the Xperia XZ3, at least at a quick glance. You can still, for instance, quickly change between the photo and the video mode with a quick tap of these icons down here. You've got your separate mode section, which adds in things like full manual controls. Good if you want to actually know what you're doing, you want to play around with like the ISO levels, the shutter speed, and so on. And even if you don't want those full manual controls, you can at least just quickly adjust the likes of the brightness and the color temperature like so. However, you will of course notice that the Xperia 1 now has the addition of this little icon down here, and just a quick tap of that will cycle you between the three different lenses: wide angle, standard, and then that telephoto 2x zoom option. You've also got fast access up here on the Xperia 1 to a dedicated bokeh style mode as well, which just keeps your subject nice and crisp and uses that tri-lens setup in order to do a good bit of depth recognition and just add a nice bit of background blur to the proceedings. And that's completely fully scalable as well, which is great to see. As for the video smarts, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage on either of these devices, and you also get full HDR support when needed as well. Unfortunately, the image stabilization seems better on the old XZ3, certainly at that 4K level. It seems a little bit janky on the horizontal plane here on the Xperia 1. Go check out my full in-depth Xperia 1 camera review if you want to see what I mean. But all stabilization jankiness aside, I definitely prefer the Xperia 1 for shooting movies, mostly thanks to its awesome Cinema Pro feature. Now this is basically using that Cine Alta style tech once again to basically shoot Hollywood standard movies. You've got a variety of filters that you can play around with, bright, warm, strong. You can get almost a nice dystopian futuresque vibe from some of them, and others just look really nice and friendly and inviting. And of course you've got a very nice soft monochrome one for particularly moody, arty home movies. Bit of a button director, it is all good. And of course you can control the shutter speed, the white balance, all that kind of stuff as well to get a very, very particular kind of effect. So if you know what you're doing, then it's great, but of course you can actually see the effects right there live on the display as well. So just a little bit of playing around and you'll get the hang of it quick enough. Again, go check out my Xperia 1 camera review for more on that shenanigans. And as for the front-facing camera, well, it's taken a scale back in terms of actual megapixels. It used to be a 13 megapixel shooter here on the XZ3. It's now an 8 megapixel here on the Xperia 1, but you still get nice crisp selfies, some pretty decent HDR smarts as well, and of course you've got the full portrait selfie mode as well, which does a pretty decent job. Sometimes the edge detection can be quite shonky, especially if you up the bokeh effect. But yeah, overall for snapping your beautiful face, it's pretty damn good stuff. And of course you can shoot up to full HD video as well if you want to do a bit of vlogging and basically look like a complete twat in public. And so that right there in a nutshell is this fresh new Sony Xperia 1 versus last year's Xperia XZ3. As you can see, it's not quite been a year, but a huge amount has changed in that time. So if you already own the Xperia XZ3, are you tempted to upgrade to the Xperia 1? And if you don't own either, are you tempted to buy the Xperia 1 or maybe save yourself a bit of cash and get the XZ3 instead? It'll be great to hear your thoughts down below in the comments, so please do smash them down there, and please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell as well for more on the latest and greatest sexy mobile tech. Cheers everyone, love you!